Hello and welcome to another edition of West Bloomfield 911.
What are you doing?
It's the past.
No, the past means it's gone.
No, well, I'm sitting here, aren't I?
Who invited you?
You did.
Oh, that must have been hallucinating.
I don't just get to sit back down and start where I left off.
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, now I forgot what I was saying.
Well, nothing's changed.
It's another edition of West Bloomfield 911. And my co-host today is Officer Rick Trabulsy.
Well, thanks for having me, Tom. I appreciate it.
Good to see you again.
Nice seeing you. For folks that have longtime viewers of the program, you remember when Tom and I worked together, so we thought we'd just throw a little twist in there and have Tom open up. So good to have you back.
Good. It's good to be here.
All right. Well, before we start chatting, we are going to turn the corner spotlight on Sue Nelson. So folks, if you look on the screen, you'll see her smiling countenance. Dispatcher Sue Nelson currently assigned to the Communications Division, and she was hired November 10th of 2013, so she's been here about 6 months. But Sue has about 15 years of service with law enforcement. She actually started as a volunteer with the Holly Police Department in 1999 as an on-call interpreter on American Sign Language, and I know my kids took some of that in school. I have no idea what they're doing, but Sue does, and she was a big asset to Holly PD, and we thank her for her service there. In fact, they were so happy with her that in 2004, they hired her as a dispatcher. I asked Sue what her favorite food was, and I'm sure you can guess, as it has been for almost everybody. What do you think it was?
Pizza.
You got it, pizza. And when I asked her for her favorite book, she said mysteries, any mystery. And for her favorite movie, one that I didn't really care for, but she sure liked it, and my wife did too, Grease, that 1978 musical starring John Revolting and Olivia Newton-John. I mean, John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John. I always screw that up. I don't know how. Her favorite music, good old-fashioned rock and roll. And when I asked her about her accomplishments and hobbies, she said she loves cooking, gardening, and outdoor activities. And she's very happy with her 2 beautiful daughters and a wonderful husband, and that is so refreshing to hear. So, Sue, we're glad you're happy with them, and I'm sure they're delighted with you too.
You know, what's interesting is we could have used her if she did sign language. Remember when we did the deaf community self-defense training?
DEF CAN.
Yeah,
absolutely.
we could have used her.
We could have, and if we start that again, we'll call her.
There you go.
Absolutely. And one last thing, when I asked her about her favorite quote, she said it's, "Don't sweat the small stuff." And you know, that's actually kind of a contraction. Remember, the first rule is don't sweat the small stuff. Second rule is it's all small stuff. And she has a long line of law enforcement in her family because her father is retired from Ferndale PD. He made the promised land, so we're very happy for him. Sue, we're glad you're here. We hope you have many years of health and happiness and enjoy your career in West Bloomfield. And we're going to turn the corner spotlight off. I'll see you at the barn. And you're going to lead us in a dumb criminal today, are you not, Tom?
Well, you know, it's very interesting. We used to do this before.
Yes, we did.
When we did the program. But when we did it then, the book had small print. I notice it's all large print now. Why is that?
For the same reason you're wearing glasses.
All right, we'll get on with our stupid and dumbest criminal. Though he pleaded innocent, LaDondrell Montgomery of Houston, Texas, was slapped with a life sentence for armed robbery. But shortly after the trial, his lawyer dug up evidence that would exonerate the man, something Montgomery knew but had completely forgotten. He'd happened to be locked up in the jail at the time of the robbery.
You know what?
He lucked out.
He did. He lucked out. And of course, he's so bright, I'm sure he'll be back in again anyway.
Won't be long.
No, won't be long. Folks, thanks for watching as always, and don't go away. We'll be right back with a very special guest, my good friend, someone who got me started in this side of law enforcement, Sergeant Tom Keilman of the West Bloomfield Police Department. Don't go away.
You're watching West Bloomfield 911 on Civic Center TV, a service of the Greater West Bloomfield Cable Communications Commission. For more information or to watch episodes on demand, visit civiccentertv.com/WB911. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
After the tragic loss of an officer in the line of duty, Michigan Concerns of Police Survivors provides support to surviving law enforcement, families, and coworkers. To learn more about My Cops and upcoming events, or for more information on how you can help, visit mycops.org or call 877-464-2677.
Hello and welcome again to West Bloomfield 911. And this gentleman needs no introduction to you fans of West Bloomfield 911. He's our good friend, former host, Sergeant Tom Keilman. Tom, glad to
Good to
have you
be
back.
here. Good to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to see you. It's certainly deja vu all over again, as they say. You know?
Now, how many have you done? I know when I finished up, we had done about 250. Mm-hmm. How many is it?
We are up over, with these series of shows, we should be up over 350 shows.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, so time marches on.
Let's see, then that puts us in contention with Bonanza and what else?
Bonanza, was that? I never heard of that.
Yeah, listen, nobody else is
No,
heard of
that's
that.
true. You're talking to a whole different generation,
Yep,
unless
yep.
they're watching TV Land or something, you know. Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about it. I mean, it's been a long time, and you, I know you, actually, Chief Cronin was the first host of the show.
Yes.
And that very first show, I'll never forget, you asked me, said, hey, you want to come over and see what we're doing? And I had no clue as to what you guys were doing.
Neither did we.
Yeah. And he was the host, sorta.
Yes.
And it was him and former Chief Dwyer down in Farmington Hills and the former chief of
In Franklin.
Ed Glum.
Yes.
And they were all
Buddies.
buddies from Wayne County.
Yep.
Two of them worked in Detroit. I know Glum worked for Wayne County because he was lieutenant when I first started there. But it was like three just veteran cops that
Like a round table.
like a round table. And
Well, he discovered that was not his forte. He
Yes,
was a great
that's true.
chief and a politician, but with all the necessary work that goes into putting together, you know, a show and guests and all of that, it wasn't long. I took over, and then it was a while before you came on.
Well, you know, one time I was kind of curious how all that worked, and I went back and looked at some of the old shows, and I think the chief did, if I remember, about 15 shows by himself.
Was it that many?
Yeah, I was surprised. And then remember, he brought in the women who were working in the
Yes.
commercial
Yeah.
TV, and there were a bunch of them. Teresa Tomeo was
Tomeo,
one of them,
yeah.
and there were three others. And then I think he brought you in after about the 30th show or something like that.
Okay.
And then he came back, but then he kind of passed it off to you.
Yes, and this goes back a number of years. We're talking back in the 90s.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
When all of this started.
Right.
But it was fun. It was a lot of work, but we've had interesting guests.
Yes.
Lots of information that's gone out that have benefited the community.
Well,
and,
do you remember some of the guests we've had on?
the former Attorney General Jennifer Granholm.
Yes.
That was before she was governor. Of course, we've had chiefs, we've had judges, we've had politicians. What were we missing in the mix?
I don't think we missed anybody.
We had
in the
Detroit
mix.
PD
We
with
had
crime
clerics on the
prevention.
show.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Specialists in workplace violence and domestics.
Yep.
Just about a little bit of everything.
Right,
It was excellent.
right.
We had a lot of fun. I learned a lot.
Yes, and it was funny because I remember you eventually, and I want to tell the folks because it is true, and I know I've told you before, so I'm not just saying it because we're here on TV, but Tom was the one that asked me if I wanted to get into crime prevention, and he said, Rick, would you like to do crime prevention? And I said, sure. What's that?
And that's what 90% of the rest of the department
Yeah,
would
that's
ask
right.
now.
That's right. Because you had gotten into it earlier on.
Yep.
And in fact, you learned from a great crime prevention practitioner out of Detroit who has since retired, and unfortunately, I can't remember his name.
You
but
know, and it failed because I was thinking about him the other
Yeah.
day. But yeah, he
he
kinda
was like a guru
discipled
in this
me.
area.
Oh yeah, he was very well known, and
Right.
then after he retired, did a number of other significant jobs with security.
Yep.
But you mentioned it, you know, the crime prevention. It's a whole different mindset
Yes.
of what police work is, and it's a little harder to measure than it is crimes that are affecting the community because in the prevention mode, nobody knows what hasn't happened.
Right.
And that's hard to judge.
Right.
But through the years, we've had a number of people come back to us and tell us, how they've, escaped this or that or saw scams, and it's been very positive and rewarding.
Well, you know what? When we first asked me to come on a show, I thought it was funny. I went back, I'd put them on DVD, and I looked at some of the old VHS.
Well, wasn't it chipped into stone to
Yeah, I
start
think
with?
so.
Then we went to video.
Reel to reel.
Yeah.
And I remember, and it was a learning process for both of us. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. But when we came on, I remember you said, do you want to be co-host in the first couple of shows? You introduced me, and then I was never heard from again. Because we really hadn't worked out anything
You had a sore
ourselves.
throat.
Yeah, right. Still going on.
Yep.
And but yeah, we had a lot of good guests, but also talk about some of the stuff we did in crime prevention, all the classes we did.
Well, I was thinking about that. When you think about it, through my years and yours, I think our department was named Crime Prevention Department of the Year at least 4 or 5 times.
I think so.
I won it individually. We had great programs. We partnered with community education, advertised in their flyers.
Yeah.
And we did women's crime awareness, kids self-defense, protecting your home, citizens and gambling. We had safe
Realtors.
driver, babysitter. We were quite innovative back then. I remember they said, think out of the box. So we printed up thousands of flyers, and we went around to the pizza companies that did deliveries here, and they would staple our flyers to the top of their box to everyone that they delivered. We wrote articles for newspapers, worked with the Chamber of Commerce, and for a while.
Which later taught Dare.
Taught Dare,
which
taught
later
Team.
turned into Team.
Yep.
Right?
And remember, way back when, we had a joint group between us and Farmington Hills and Southfield and Novi, where we did bank robbery
Plymouth.
training. Yep, Plymouth was part of that. A huge amount of things that we did. And perhaps one of my favorite, when you go a long ways back, we partnered with UPN 50 TV News with Amir Jacobson. And what was...
the name of the program?
No. Well, I know what that was. It was Street Smarts.
Street Smarts,
Who was the producer?
Oh, boy, I don't remember her
I know
name
her name
either.
just slips away.
It's going way back, though.
But I went back and counted. We did 80, it was 82 or 88,
Did we do that many?
82 or 88 segments where we would go out with them, reenact a crime prevention scenario, either for mugging or stalking or breaking into the house. Then we would comment on it, give people tips, and that would run Monday nights during the 10 p.m. newscast.
And they would rerun them many times.
Yes, and not only that, but then they gave them to us, and then we would use them
Here on
with
this
our
show.
program.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you recall, that actually ran for, you said you did 80 episodes, but we did them at various times. That went for about 2.5 years.
Yes.
Which is a lifetime of television.
Oh, it is.
You know?
But I remember all the fun going out. It was a
yeah.
lot more complicated, than we thought. They had to package a cameraman, a producer, and a mirror, and then you had to go out to the location. You had to set up, and we had our problems with some of the production sometime. Remember, we were in a park, I think it was in Southfield, and we were doing a mugging, and a guy was pushing his baby, and his wife was there, and he saw what was going on, had no idea that we were trying to film something, and he was going to get involved. It was great. We had a lot of fun.
And remember we were down in that one store down in Southgate in the grocery store, and we were doing an armed robbery, and of course pulled out the gun, and for the folks that may not remember it because it's been a while now. You always gave the tips, and I always played the bad guy. And
well,
Amir,
look at that mug.
Well, yeah, I guess it went with the territory. And Amir was always the victim. And we thought the store was clear, and I was running out of the store with my gun, and he came in. He was a UPS driver, and he saw me with the gun robbing the place, and you could just see the blood leave his face.
I remember one time you hurt Amir. Remember, we were at Fairlane Mall doing parking lot security, and you were attacking her at the car and pulling her into the van which we had there, showing an abduction. And she got into this stuff.
She was really fighting
She
me.
was really fighting you, and then when she ran off, she twisted her ankle.
Right, I remember that.
That was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. And she was always such a good sport, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And that's never been reenacted. We never did do it again. And I remember she told us, you know, once in a while they'd bring in another agency to do some of that. But you remember she told us, she said, "You know, we have to do it because we're a regional newscast, but we really like doing it with you guys."
Well, we got to be personal friends.
Yeah,
we went out to dinner and just, you know, with the complexity of it all. I think one time, didn't we set up a mirror to see if she would know if she was being followed?
Yes, we did on stalking.
Stalking, and was it you that we had put the flowers in the car?
It was me and one of the cameramen. I was taking the stills, he was taking the video, and we camped out by her house, and we followed her for about 4 or 5 hours that day. Because she said, having worked with us, that she was very aware of all these type of things now, and there's no way you guys can follow me without being spotted.
She found out differently.
She found out differently, yeah. Yeah, she did. And she was surprised that we had all this video on her, and she had no clue that we were with her, you know. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. But, you know, and I also want to say, not only did you help get me into crime prevention, and so, I mean, really, when I came here, I didn't know you from Adam. I was cold here. I didn't know anybody. And, you know, for whatever reason, you thought I would do well in it, and for that I appreciate it.
Sorry for you.
Well, thank you. I don't care what the reason was. And once I started working with you, everybody else felt sorry for me. But, you know, you became a good friend over the years, and certainly a mentor in crime prevention. And we kind of had opposite. We followed the same path, but some ways, because you started as a pastor, and you're still an ordained minister. And then you came into law enforcement.
Correct.
After working as a chaplain for the Canton PD Police Department. And you saw how much fun law enforcement was, and you decided, I want to trade the collar for a gun. And of course, I started the opposite way. I've been in law enforcement for 36 years, and then got ordained as a deacon about 5 years ago.
Well, you had to get some forgiveness for the past, that, you know.
Well,
it took
I'm
you
still working
on
it. But now, what?
Well, those roles obviously have a great foundation when you go into law enforcement. I didn't come in until I was 33.
Right.
And I had a whole different perspective. As a matter of fact, even during the process for 6 years, I was a pastor of a church part-time while I was working here.
Right, I remember that.
And,
down in Allen Park.
And I think it keeps you centered. When I was pastoring the first time, I was approached by the Canton chief to become a chaplain, and I began to ride with one night a week. And I found something different from being a pastor. You know, you can give out good advice, you know, you can preach the word and counsel with people, but when I got into the police work and started, you know, riding with, I saw that there was some immediate action we could take to help people through the miseries that they were doing, whether it be runaway kids or suicides or family troubles. So it's a perspective on both. Something instant that you can do, and then the long-term, you know, where you have a spiritual base where you can build into people and see their lives change.
Well, now let me ask you a question. You've been doing this for how many years? You've been a cop now?
I'm going on 27.
27 years. And I've been doing it 36. So we're both at the tail end of our law enforcement careers. And we both hope to make the promised land, retirement. Mm-hmm. Do you see yourself staying in law enforcement as a chaplain or anything like that down the line?
Well, I have an opportunity to begin to help develop a chaplain academy with the Wayne County Regional Schoolcraft College Academy, where they will take area pastors and clergy and train them, much like Macomb Community College has one that's going on and you're familiar with.
Right.
But that's a possibility. But I haven't, what I really like to do is combine both of them. I'm looking at consulting, working with churches on security.
Well, we've done some of that in the past.
Yes, we have, and I still like it, dealing with you know, people on how they can better cover, you know, their offerings, how they can have better hiring procedures, taking care of the kids in a congregation. Because you have to admit, a church, a synagogue, a mosque, is a soft target. Open doors, for everyone that's coming in. So you want to be sensitive to people and their needs, but at the same time, you have an obligation to your congregation or your group of people to keep them safe.
Well, not only that, let's talk a little bit about that. You not only have an obligation to keep people safe, but what happens if your reputation has been tarnished?
You meaning an organization?
As a religious organization.
See, that's the tough one. Once something happens, getting your reputation back is a very hard thing to do. As a matter of fact, we talk about that in our consulting practice. You have to protect your property, you have to protect your people, and you have to protect your reputation. Because somebody, a church secretary embezzling money, there goes the reputation. Somebody that was in ministry with kids did something that was criminal. There goes your reputation. So that's why we look and see prevention is the greatest thing that you can do. Not come after the fact and try to deal with it, but deal with it beforehand and try to eliminate those things from happening.
Right. Well, let's go back a little bit, because you now have been on the road for, how many years have you been back on the road as a supervisor?
Almost 5, just
5
past
years.
5.
Okay.
I've spent a little over half of my career in crime prevention.
Okay. Now, you have a knowledge of crime prevention, and we have some other officers that have come into the unit and gone out and have some knowledge as well. But as you said, most people, including law enforcement, I know I was very ignorant of that myself, meaning ignorant, lack of knowledge. I had no idea what crime prevention was. And when you first started telling me about it, it almost seems like it's not compatible with traditional law enforcement of, hook 'em and book 'em.
Right.
But it really is. And in fact, the father of modern law enforcement, one of the elements of law enforcement, he said, was prevention, and then somehow it got lost over the years. When you went back on the road, what was the reaction to some of the guys, you coming back now you're a road patrol supervisor, and if you tried to teach them about crime prevention, was there some resistance to it? Was there, ambivalence about it?
I heard jokes about you and crime prevention
sure.
yesterday at work. What are you doing tomorrow, Tom? I'm going over West. Rick, that's all he does, nothing, sitting around, pretends he's a cop. There is a general feeling, because they don't get it in the academy, that prevention is probably, I think, the most important part of police work.
Right.
You have to admit, the road is reactive. We're responding to calls, other than the things that we run across during the course of a day.
Right.
But prevention goes much further. Our guys have not been trained in locks, doors, and windows, cameras, access control, crime prevention through environmental design, and these kind of things. And I think that's a missing element, and it should be a major part of the academy experience, learning that.
Well, now you down, I know you've been teaching at Wayne County Regional for quite a few years. Excuse me. Have you, and I know you have proposed that to them, is there resistance on a state level as well?
Yes, and it's not resistance to the concept, it's resistance to adding hours. When I went through the academy and graduated back in 1987, we had 13 weeks. The academy now is up to 18 weeks. And they have to increase it because of domestic assault, stalking, a number of new laws that have gone in that demand more time. And they just don't see it as that important a factor to stretch out the academy that much more. So, it's falling through the cracks is the best way to look at it. Not that it's not important, but there are other issues up there that you have to be aware of. You got your firearms training, defensive tactics, first aid,
driving,
the law, all of those other kind of things. We did once, I believe, we have an in-house academy at West Bloomfield, the police department, usually a week long that everyone has to go through. We offered a section on crime prevention.
I taught that,
and I think it was a 4-hour section. All you do is get the very tip of it.
Just scratch the surface.
Right. But that was a start. The department recognized the need for it, but we need more.
Well, let me ask you a question, Tom. We're kind of running out of time. As you used to always say, time is the enemy, and it certainly is. Is there anything you'd like the people to know about, I guess, crime prevention or, you know, some of the things that we've done in the past about the department that, you know, from your perspective as a seasoned police officer, a road patrol officer, crime prevention officers, anything you'd like to tell the people?
Yes, as a matter of fact, neighborhoods are important. Now, when you and I grew up, you remember this, our parents used to sit on the front porch, and the kids would ride their bikes up and down the street, and they'd play out in front, and everybody knew one another. We have a different time, we have a different type of culture. People have decks, they have patios, and they're out in the back. They have privacy fences. You know, and it's great to, you know, be able to have that kind of privacy and deal with your own friends, but I think we've done it to the detriment of neighbors getting to know one another.
Right.
And if they could get together, such as, you know, things like Neighborhood Watch, people would look out for one another. We had an incident last night where a house over on Villamere that is being built. The contractor there, and the gentleman who's building it, has taken the time to walk around and meet his neighbors. Well, they noticed about 10 o'clock last night that there was a green pickup sitting in the driveway of this home that's not finished. So you know what, they got on the phone and called us, gave us a description of the vehicle, and we had 3 officers on the way over there. The vehicle left, and unfortunately, you know, it's about 100 yards from 14 Mile in Farmington, so by the time we got there, the vehicle was gone. But the neighbors saw it. We were there. We found out the home had not been invaded. There was a large construction container there with trash that they were probably going through. But that's the perfect thing of seeing a suspicious vehicle or a person and then calling.
And calling the police. Good words to live by. Tom, unfortunately, we're out of time, and we do want to recognize an American hero. I know that something that you take to heart as well. And we want to recognize folks. The face on the screen and the name is Police Officer Rodney Wayne Jones of the Detroit Police Department. So please remember him in your thoughts and your prayers. He died in the line of duty on September 14, 2013, just after our own tragedy here in West Bloomfield. Officer Jones died while representing the Detroit Police Department during a police motorcycle training and skills competition in Flint, Michigan, commonly called a bike rodeo. Our bike officers used to go there. Many of them knew Rodney and thought this guy was one heck of a guy, just a wonderful person. He was performing maneuvers on his departmental motorcycle when suddenly he stopped it and then he fell to the ground. He was immediately treated by nearby paramedics and transferred to Hurley Medical Center, where he passed away. So we ask you to please remember this great American hero, Police Officer Rodney Wayne Jones of the Detroit Police Department. Remember him in your thoughts and your prayers, his colleagues at DPD, and also his family. He was married and had a son, and I got to meet them at a Blue Mass, and they're just wonderful people. So please remember them. And we say to this great American hero, Police Officer Rodney Wayne Jones, my brother, you will never be forgotten. On behalf of my dear friend, my mentor, my coworker, my colleague, Sergeant Tom Keilman, we want to thank you for coming on.
Enjoyed being here.
It's great to have you here again. Folks, thank you for watching West Bloomfield 911. On behalf of Chief Michael Patton and the men and women of the West Bloomfield Police Department, we thank you for watching. Remember, you can catch us on the telly, but if you miss us there, go to the internet at civiccentertv.com, and don't forget to tune us in, and we'll see you again on West Bloomfield 911.